Hey guys, hope everybody's doing well. I'm about to get back on the road with Chris Botti. As always, make sure to check out my tour dates at chatlb.com. Always so fun to see and meet you guys out there in person on the road. But today we're going to get into one of my favorite concepts, which is the concept of melodic cells. And we're going to check out 5 different steps that you can take to get more familiar with this concept. Melodic cells are simply a group of notes. When you put a few notes together, they essentially make up a cell. Usually the most straightforward way to use cells is just to take 4-note cells. And with those 4-note cells, they can end up being a vehicle for your line construction. Especially when it comes to modern playing, I like to think about it like this. Essentially, any line that you play is just a bunch of building blocks put together. So if you hear an extended line that sounds really impressive, all these parts put together into this big thing, just know that it's just a bunch of simple cells put together. With that in mind, let's talk about some steps that you can take to get this concept into your playing. And if you like any of the exercises or techniques that we check out today, there are a couple ways that you're going to be able to get deeper into these concepts. If you want to be more self-guided with this type of thing, everything that we check out today is going to come from the Modern Combo package, which is a group of PDF ebook downloads that I release with jazz lesson videos. What comes in that package is a technique building book, a phrases book, and an etudes book, all of which get into this concept of melodic cells. And another way that you can get deeper into this concept is by working with myself and the members of the Jazz Gym team. That's a really cool jazz lesson video subscription program where you get access to 5 daily live classes every single day. And essentially these will be coaching sessions where you're guided through a practice session. Each day of classes has 3 different blocks with 3 different workout options, we call them. These options essentially take a given concept and cater to whatever skill level you're at. So we have a range of players in the Jazz Gym program, some of which are more developing improvisers, and some of the members are full-out professional musicians and educators who are just looking to go the extra mile and invest more time and energy into their development as a player. Every day in the Jazz Gym, we do what we call a full range practice session where you get coached through a range of materials so you can get a really comprehensive, effective practice session. But to give things even more structure, every week we do have a focus concept. And this week, the focus concept is melodic cells. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to briefly touch on some of the steps that we're going through in the Jazz Gym this week to get everybody more fluid in this concept. Step 1 is going to be diatonic cells. So the first step with melodic cells is you want to take individual cells and practice them moving up and down chromatically. Eventually you might want to do different patterns that use the cells in different ways, but to start, if you move up and down chromatically, you're going to blow through all 12 keys. A diatonic cell specifically is going to be a cell that actually fits within a scale. So a great starting point would be taking the diatonic cell 1, 2, 3, 5 on a major scale. If we move that 1, 2, 3, 5 cell up and down chromatically, it will sound like this. Then step 2 is going to be getting into chromatic cells or non-diatonic cells. Those cells are going to use a combination of notes that don't sit inside a conventional scale. Now, of course, there are lots of different types of scales in music, but generally speaking, these cells are just going to be a little bit more chromatic in nature. And so we'll think of them as non-scalar, even if they do happen to fit in a less conventional type of scale. This cell is used all over modern jazz, so it's a really good one to internalize moving up and down chromatically. That's going to sound like this. All right, so once you've got some individual cells down, like the last 2 that we just got into, then you're going to want to get into compound cells, which is just going to be putting 2 individual cells together. A lot of times it can sound really cool if you put 1 diatonic cell and 1 non-diatonic cell back to back. Then you can do the same thing with that compound cell, moving it up and down chromatically. You'll hear when you get into compound cells, the compound cells are actually going to sound like a real phrase. At this point, you might start to feel like this is something that you can incorporate into your playing. With the first cell in this compound cell, you'll see that you step down a couple half steps and then you jump up a 4th. After that, you go back to the original starting note of that last cell and you do another cell that ends up being diatonic. Putting both of these individual cells together sounds like this. The next step after the compound cells is going to be getting into what I like to call melodic cell streams, which is when you just take individual cells back to back continuously to structure a whole phrase. When we do these melodic cell streams, it's a really nice opportunity to create tension and release. So what I like to do, and what you'll see in this next phrase, is you start with a cell that fits inside a chord, then you can play a bunch of cells outside of the harmony, and then come back inside at the end. So what you'll see in this phrase is we actually use that 1, 2, 3, 5 shape for the first 2 measures. We start inside of C major, then we go up half steps for 2 bars straight. But what you'll see happens in the second bar is we mix up the order of the notes in that 1, 2, 3, 5 cell. So instead of playing 1, 2, 3, 5, we play 5, 3, 1, 2 in D major, and then we play 1, 2, 5, 3 in E flat major. And when you're improvising through this type of material, it's not like you actually have to be thinking this on the fly. What happens is once you get flexible enough with playing lots of different melodic cells, you'll be able to throw this into your playing somewhat naturally. In measure 3, you'll see that chromatic cell that we did earlier, starting from B, then a diatonic cell using 3, 1, 2, 3, and a resolution that just fits inside of C major. So again, with this material, if you want to get more into the application of this type of thing, you'll have the opportunity to do that if you want to work with us in the Jazz Gym. But at the end of the day, the most important thing to remember is that you can understand this stuff, but in order for it to effectively come out in your playing, you need to put focused energy into practicing these concepts. And that just happens one day at a time. So if you need more accountability in your practice schedule, the Jazz Gym is a really good opportunity to lock yourself into some scheduled times where you get live coaching sessions. Finally, the last thing that we're going to check out is applying this concept into a jazz standard. So what we're going to do now is we're going to check out an etude from the etude book that I mentioned earlier. And so what you're going to see here is a bunch of phrases through a tune that we're calling All the Things That Are. And I'm sure these chord changes will look familiar to you. So what you're going to see through these chord changes is a bunch of cells that weave in and outside of the harmony. Pay close attention to the rhyming shapes. And what I mean by that is if you look at bars 11 and 12, you're going to see 2 compound melodic cells back to back, moving chromatically and creating tension and release through those chords. So let's check out the first 16 bars of this etude and see what it sounds like. All right, guys, so I hope you learned something today about this cool concept. I know it's one of my favorites for playing in a more modern way. If you want to work on this directly with me, I would love to work with you guys in the Jazz Gym. We've got a great team of Jazz Gym trainers there that are more than happy to help you progress with your playing and development. And if you prefer to be more self-guided with this thing, you're welcome to check out the modern combo packages that we have available for you at jazzlessonvideos.com. That's going to be a great resource that includes these 3 different ebooks, plus backing tracks and recordings of me playing the phrases and etudes. So it's going to be a really nice resource for you to check out. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure to click like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.